Hey, everybody, we are back. John Delarose here, delarose.com. That's DELARROZ.com. I'll leave that link in the description below where you can get a free graphic novel for signing up for my newsletter. You won't want to miss it, believe me. All right. I've been watching this story develop over the past couple days. There's an interview on, I believe, what is it? Who did it? Deadline with Alan Moore, who is talking about how superhero movies are a blight on cinema and culture. And I have to 100% agree with him. A lot of fans are really upset with him and for his take on this. But Alan Moore's been very consistent over the last 20 years, kind of lamenting his role in comics and how the comic medium has progressed, or rather regressed, into really the lowest common denominator. And this is why comic stories these days really don't have the resonance that the old school comics used to have. There's not much creativity going on anymore. There's a lot of attempts to just copy Alan Moore's work and copy it poorly. Alan Moore never intended Watchmen to be a template for how to make comics and how to create this dark, gritty world all the time. He was just doing his own take on what was Charlton heroes at the time and twisting them a little bit. So it's a very bizarre situation where we're at now, but this is where the comic industry is. He says, I haven't seen a superhero movie since the first Tim Burton Batman film. It's a good place to stop. They have blighted cinema and also blighted culture to a degree. Several years ago, I said I was really worried. It was a really worrying sign that hundreds of thousands of adults were queuing up to see characters created 50 years ago to entertain 12-year-old boys. That seemed to speak to some kind of longing to escape from the complexities of the modern world and go back to a nostalgic, remembered childhood. It seemed dangerous. It was infantilizing the population. And that's very true with the way that our culture's gone. Our culture really has pushed in these comic movies to something where you really don't have a depth of character anymore. You don't have a depth of consideration or artistry. It's just put the biggest explosions possible. I've been sort of calling and sounding the alarm about this for years. I remember seeing Superman Man of Steel and watching where this like 25-minute fight scene dragged out. That was just the most ridiculous, with Superman falling through buildings and then the buildings collapse. Then, he gets his enemy and throws him through another building and the entire city falls down. These are types of things that just don't make any sense in any sort of context, and just rely on the CGI to, provide some sort of visual to people rather than actually having any decent story to it. And that movie really didn't have much of a story to it, and it had a dark and twisted element to it, and it darkly twisted Superman. It's everything Alan Moore is saying is a problem here. I mean, even the same goes with Star Trek. Star Trek used to be a show about exploration, about really seeking new life and new civilizations, as it says in the show, going out there and trying to really be innovative in what it showed. And then you get into Star Trek Into Darkness, and it's rehashing old plot lines, and you get a 10-15 minute fist fight of Spock on top of a spaceship fist fighting as a spaceship crashes onto Earth. It's utterly ridiculous, and it doesn't have any creativity or merit to it, and it doesn't even honor the original characters going on there. It's very interesting. And of course, Alan says he does not watch any of them. All these characters have been stolen from their original creators. This is another big thing that people don't realize. It's very sad. All of them. They have a long line of ghosts standing behind them. I have no interest in superheroes. They were a thing invented in the late 30s for children. They're perfectly good as children's entertainment, agreed. But if you try to make them for an adult world, I think that becomes kind of grotesque. And that's very true. And that's what Alan Moore did in the 1980s. He used to talk about that a lot. And he changed, what happened is he actually really drastically changed his mode of writing later on when he came out with works like Top 10 and Tom Strong, which are much, much better than his early works with superheroes. He actually has a quote from another interview which talks about his book, The Killing Joke, which I'm a huge critic of. If you see my review of it, you can look it up on the channel. And Alan Moore agrees with my assessment of it. He says, I never really liked my story, The Killing Joke. I think it put far too much melodramatic weight upon a character that was never designed to carry it. It was too nasty, too physically violent, and I agree with that too. There were good things about it, but in terms of my writing, it's not one of my favorite pieces. If, as I said, God forbid, I was ever writing a character like Batman again, I'd probably be setting it squarely in the kind of the smiley uncle period where Dick Sprang was drawing it, where you had Ace the Bat Hound. Yes, I love Ace the Bat Hound, and Batmite and the Zebra Batman. And it was sillier because then it was brimming with imagination and playful ideas. And that's a big part of what this is my commentary now of what comic books is missing today. Back to Alan Moore's words. I don't think that the world needs as many brooding psychopathic Avengers. I don't know that we need any. It was a disappointment to me how Watchmen was absorbed into the mainstream. It had originally been meant as an indication of what people could do that was new. I originally thought that with works like The Watchmen and Marvel Man, I'd be able to say, look, this is what you can do with these stale old concepts. You can turn them on your heads. You can wake them up. Don't be limited in your thinking. Use your imagination. And I was naively hoping that there'd be a rush of fresh and original work by people coming up on their own. But as I said, it was meant to be something that would liberate comics. Instead, it became a massive stumbling block that comics can't get really seem to get around in this day. They've lost a lot of their original innocence, and they can't get that back. And they're stuck, it seems, in this kind of depressive ghetto of grimness and psychosis. I'm not too proud of being the author of that regrettable trend. And I have been talking about this for years. I've been saying that Alan Moore, Frank Miller, Neil Gaiman, with their push to darkness, to nihilism, to grittiness with these superhero concepts, really are responsible for ruining comics, for making comics something that you can't share with your children, for making comics something that just are something to look away from rather than to just kind of enjoy and just have fun with. And that pushed into 90s, where the 90s became just like the gritty action with very little story substance whatsoever, and then even pushed even further as people learned to write towards graphic novel, to where you get these 6-part stories or 8-part or 15-part stories, and the middle sections are barely have any character development or any story development at all. It's really pushed out creativity from the world, and it's because of these superhero concepts where people are living off of Stan Lee's work and Jack Kirby's work and Steve Ditko's work, among others, for these characters created 60, 70 years ago at this point. It's utterly ridiculous. But in order to usher in a new era of comics, we're going to need to really push back and come back to that innocence, to that actual imaginative storytelling like Alan Moore is suggesting. You should not be limited. Comic books have no budget, and for effects or anything like that. You should be able to come up with something cool and different, and that's fun and actually has some sort of lighthearted thing. So I've tried to do that, and I will put this link down below. This is a book called The Cosmic Warrior. I've released it directly to Amazon. You can get it on Kindle for $3.99, which is about the price of a Marvel comic. If you want to read it digitally, you can buy the paperback. Of course, there's paper printing, and I make very little money off the paperbacks. I actually prefer people to buy on Kindle if that's possible. But the Cosmic Warrior is really trying to get back to that Flash Gordon, John Carter sort of sense of wonder, where there's space exploration going on. There's actual heroes who are doing right things. I think it's important to show heroes doing good and heroes having real values. So that's what we got here. There's 2 issues currently. I just finished up a Kickstarter for Flying Sparks for those who follow along. And what I do with my funds from that is I help commission the next round of comics. So I will be commissioning issue number 3 to sort of finish off this first arc of the Cosmic Warrior very shortly. So I definitely implore you to pick this up. This is exactly what Alan Moore is talking about in terms of like pushing into a new realm of creativity, changing the way that comics are made. And it actually has a full story. Every issue has a complete story, a beginning, middle, and end, which I think is very important for comics also. And I'm hoping we can return to something awesome as we redevelop this industry and change it from the models that have failed us for the last several decades. All right, everybody. Hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know what you think here. Hopefully you guys are on the same page. But I'm really emboldened and love what I'm hearing from Alan Moore here. This is exactly what I've been saying all along as I've been trying to sort of steer the industry in the right direction. I'll talk to you guys soon.